So, even the word non-profit, I'm beginning to even question whether we should be using that word non-profit really in the context of Africa when we talk about impact investments. Because, for example, the entity I run is a social business. I tell my team that we use modern days business technique to deliver social solutions and impact. So what will bring credibility? I think a couple of things. I don't know whether I can say 4 or 5 in my head, trying to put it together. But one of the things that will make an impact investment, that will make donors or partners, I would say, or clients support work with you. Basically, one, for example, your governance structure. People need to see very strong governance system. You don't want to put resources. When I talk about resources, often people think about resources as cash, but resources is beyond cash. It could be equipment, it could be people, it could be skill sets, it could be networks. You need to have a good framework that manages, resources from cash, end to end, whatever that means. A clear governance structure. It needs to be very clear, and not a governance structure that is fluid. A governance structure that works. The other thing that I would say that would make organizations to thrive is having, clear finance systems, right? You have clear finance systems that, your books are clean, you are auditable, you follow, you are compliant, and that's the next thing. You are compliant to statutory obligations, right? There are obligations that you are meant to fulfill. Often and not, we think because we are doing social good, you are exempted from things like paying tax or things like honoring commitment, or everybody will understand you can import for less. No, it's a market for all, not market for one. You are not differentiated from the market. So really making sure that you observe and you honor, statutory obligations is something that very, very, very critical. For example, as a non-profit, for example, I give an example that happened some time ago. You do so much social good and people give you money. Then somebody says you are, because you didn't follow the statutory you didn't check on the statutory board. They say you are doing money laundering, and that tampers with your credibility. Not because you are doing anything bad. The government of Nigeria is very critical about who is playing in which market. And every government, in fact, it's easy to operate in Nigeria. In some markets, that have led working, it's very difficult. The government regulates very massively. Anybody who says it's a non-aid sector, audits, even people who work in the aid sector gets to belong to a pool. You get to hire people from, the executive mansion website, as this, where people, people get to, get to be regulated properly. And at that time, the government of Nigeria reached out to me, when I was resident overseas, and they wanted to know about a very global, very massively global US organization, what their true intents were. And they were a couple of due diligence questions that they wanted somebody independent, to provide a deep perspective on. And it was very shocking. That was when, for me, I was quite shocked that, if they do this for this typology of organization, with over, I was told at that time they had 400 staff in the Northeast. What would they be doing for other organizations that are of that size? Then I've also seen large organizations I've worked for before, and where their accounts were put on hold. Large companies, not because whatever, but the thing it's about the flow of funds. So you need to be sure that you build that credible kind of platform. You make sure you are registered appropriately to operate in the markets you operate, and don't think that because you are doing charity, everybody will understand.